6 a.m. Alarm screams. Check phone. 17 notifications. Jump out of bed. Coffee in hand. Emails while walking. Calls during lunch. Meetings until dinner. Collapse at midnight. Repeat. Sound familiar? You're not productive. You're addicted. Addicted to the feeling of being busy. Addicted to the illusion that motion equals progress. Addicted to the drug of constant stimulation. And it's destroying your ability to think, create, and build real wealth. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner for over 60 years, built his fortune on a radical principle that would horrify most modern workers: doing less, thinking more, moving only when movement actually matters. While the world celebrates hustle culture, Munger practiced idle culture. While others filled every minute with activity, he protected empty hours like sacred time. While competitors traded frantically, he sat quietly and waited for perfect opportunities. The result? Decades of superior returns built not on more work, but on better thinking. Modern culture has convinced you that busy equals successful, that activity equals achievement, that if you're not exhausted, you're not trying hard enough. But Munger understood a dangerous truth. The busier you are, the stupider you become. The more you move, the less you see. The faster you go, the more likely you are to crash spectacularly. This isn't about being lazy. This is about being strategic, about understanding that in a world addicted to noise and speed, silence and stillness become your greatest competitive advantage. Meet Sarah, investment banker, Ivy League MBA. Works 80 hours a week, always in meetings, always on calls, always crushing it. Last year, she made 15 major investment decisions, researched hundreds of companies, read thousands of reports, generated millions in trading volume. Her return? -12%. Meet her colleague Tom, works 40 hours, spends half his time just thinking, reading, waiting, made 3 investment decisions all year. His return? +28%. What's the difference? Sarah is addicted to being busy. Tom practices strategic idleness. The busy trap works like this. Activity becomes its own reward. You feel productive because you're constantly moving. Your calendar is full, so you must be important. Your inbox is never empty, so you must be in demand. But busy is not the same as effective. Motion is not the same as progress. Working harder often means working worse. Munger observed this everywhere. Brilliant people making terrible decisions because they didn't have time to think properly. Successful companies failing because executives were too busy to see obvious threats. The psychology is simple. When you're busy, your brain operates in reactive mode. You respond to whatever's most urgent, not what's most important. You make decisions based on incomplete information because you don't have time to gather complete information. Busy people trade quality for quantity. They answer 100 emails instead of writing one important letter. They attend 10 meetings instead of having one crucial conversation. They make 20 small decisions instead of thinking deeply about one big decision. This creates an illusion of productivity while actually destroying your ability to create value. Modern technology amplifies this trap. Slack messages, Zoom calls, push notifications, social media updates. Every app is designed to fragment your attention and keep you in reactive mode. You think you're staying connected and being responsive. Actually, you're training your brain to never focus on anything important for more than a few minutes. Munger's solution was radical. He protected his thinking time like other people protect their money. No interruptions, no meetings, no phone calls. Just hours of unstructured time to read, think, and process information without pressure to act immediately. This wasn't procrastination. This was strategic preparation. Because when you're not busy, you can see opportunities that busy people miss. Here's what nobody tells you about productivity. The most productive thing you can often do is nothing. Nothing visible anyway. Munger and Buffett made billions by sitting in offices in Omaha, reading annual reports and thinking. No fancy technology, no complex algorithms, no 12-hour trading sessions. Just two old men in chairs, thinking better than anyone else in the world. Meanwhile, Wall Street was full of brilliant people working 100-hour weeks, using the latest technology, employing hundreds of analysts, generating massive amounts of activity. Who made more money? The two quiet guys in Omaha. This is the productivity paradox. In knowledge work, thinking is more valuable than doing. But thinking looks like not working to people addicted to visible activity. Real thinking requires what psychologists call diffuse mode. Periods where your conscious mind relaxes and your subconscious processes information. This is when insights happen. This is when connections form. This is when breakthrough ideas emerge. But diffuse mode can't happen when you're constantly stimulated. When every moment is filled with tasks, meetings, notifications, your brain never gets the space it needs to do its best work. Consider the difference between Munger's approach and modern investment management. Modern approach: constant monitoring of market movements, real-time trading decisions, quarterly performance reviews, daily portfolio adjustments. Munger's approach: read for hours, think for days, wait for years, make one perfect decision that compounds for decades. Which approach requires more intelligence? Which creates more value? The answer should be obvious, but busy culture has convinced most people that the first approach is harder and therefore better. But Munger understood that difficulty and effectiveness are not the same thing. Hard work doesn't automatically create good results. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing, especially when everyone around you is frantically busy and questioning why you're not doing more. This requires tremendous psychological strength. Sitting still when others are moving, staying calm when others are panicking, thinking when others are reacting. But this is exactly what separates extraordinary performers from ordinary ones: the ability to resist the addiction to busyness and focus on what actually matters. Dr. Michael Chen, emergency room physician, saves lives every day, split-second decisions, constant adrenaline, life or death pressure. In the ER, busy equals survival. Every second matters. Hesitation kills. So when Dr. Chen started investing his savings, he applied the same approach: constant monitoring, quick decisions, immediate action. Result? He lost $300,000 in 2 years. The skills that made him excellent in one domain made him terrible in another. This is the cost of constant motion. You develop reflexes that work in some situations but destroy you in others. Munger saw this constantly. People applying emergency mode thinking to situations that required strategic mode thinking. Emergency mode: react quickly, use available information, make decisions under pressure, move fast. Strategic mode: think slowly, gather comprehensive information, consider long-term consequences, wait for optimal timing. Most modern professionals live in emergency mode all the time, not because they're facing real emergencies, but because their environment has trained them to respond to everything as urgent. Email with a red exclamation mark, Slack message marked urgent, meeting scheduled for as soon as possible. Everything feels like an emergency when you're addicted to busyness. But real value creation almost never happens in emergency mode. Real value comes from deep thinking, careful planning, patient execution. Consider how Berkshire Hathaway makes acquisitions. They don't respond to investment banking opportunities. They don't participate in auction processes. They don't make quick decisions based on limited information. Instead, they study companies for years. They wait for owners who want to sell to them specifically. They take months to complete due diligence. This approach looks slow to people addicted to speed, but it results in better businesses bought at better prices with better outcomes. The constant motion addiction also creates what psychologists call decision fatigue. Every decision you make depletes your mental energy. By the end of a busy day, you're making worse decisions even about important things. Munger's solution? Make fewer decisions. But make them better by taking more time and using more mental energy per decision. This requires saying no to most opportunities so you can say yes to the few perfect ones. While everyone else was talking, Munger was listening. While everyone else was trading, Munger was waiting. While everyone else was meeting, Munger was reading. This wasn't antisocial behavior. This was strategic advantage. Silence gives you information that talking doesn't. When you're constantly speaking, you miss what others are revealing. When you're constantly moving, you miss patterns that only become visible over time. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They fill empty space with words, empty time with activities, empty calendars with meetings. But Munger understood that empty space is where insight lives. In business meetings, while others competed to speak, Munger often said nothing. Not because he had nothing to contribute, but because silence allowed him to process what everyone else was revealing about their thinking, their biases, their blind spots. In investment decisions, while others rushed to analyze and act, Munger created space to think deeply about second-order effects, long-term consequences, historical parallels. This approach looks passive to people addicted to action, but it's actually the most active form of intelligence, consciously choosing when not to act. Consider the difference in information processing. Busy person skims 10 articles, attends 5 meetings, has 20 conversations, processes lots of information quickly and superficially. Strategic person reads 1 book deeply, has 1 meaningful conversation, thinks about implications for hours, processes less information but more thoroughly. Who develops better understanding? Who makes better decisions? The silence advantage extends beyond information gathering. Silence also creates space for creativity. The best ideas don't come during brainstorming sessions or busy work periods. They come during walks, showers, quiet moments when your mind is free to make unexpected connections. But if your day is completely filled with scheduled activities, these moments never happen. Munger deliberately protected unstructured time because he understood that his best insights came not from working harder, but from creating space for his mind to work differently. This requires confidence in a culture that equates busy with important. It requires believing that thinking is work, even when it doesn't look like work to others. Munger and Buffett built their fortune on one radical idea: most good things come to those who wait. Not wait passively, wait strategically. While others were busy chasing every opportunity, Munger was busy waiting for the right opportunity. This driving everyone around him crazy. Why aren't we buying anything? When are we going to make a move? How long are we going to sit on this cash? Munger's answer: as long as it takes. The waiting game requires understanding that opportunities are not evenly distributed. Great opportunities are rare, but when they appear, they can create extraordinary returns. The problem with being busy is that busyness makes you miss these rare opportunities. You're so focused on immediate tasks that you don't notice long-term possibilities. Consider Berkshire's investment in Apple. They didn't buy Apple when it was hot. They didn't buy during product launches or earnings beats. They waited until 2016, when most investors thought Apple's best days were behind it. Then they bought massively. Today, Apple is Berkshire's largest holding and has generated over $100 billion in value. This wasn't luck. This was the result of years of patient observation, waiting for the right combination of great business and reasonable price. Busy people can't play this game because busy people need constant action. They need to feel productive every day. They can't sit with cash, earning low returns while waiting for perfect opportunities. But perfect opportunities don't appear on your schedule. They appear when they appear. And if you're too busy to notice them, or too committed to other activities to act on them, you miss them. The waiting game also requires emotional discipline. When everyone around you is making money quickly, it's natural to feel like you're missing out. But Munger understood that FOMO, fear of missing out, is the enemy of good judgment. When you act because you're afraid of missing something, you're usually buying high and selling low. Strategic waiting means accepting that you will miss some opportunities, but you'll catch the few extraordinary ones that matter most. This approach looks lazy to people addicted to activity, but it's actually the most demanding form of discipline. Doing nothing when your instincts scream to do something. Here's what most people miss about compound interest. It works on knowledge, relationships, and wisdom, not just money. But compounding requires time, and time requires stillness. When you're constantly busy, you're constantly starting over. Every new task demands fresh mental energy. Every interruption breaks your concentration. Every context switch requires cognitive overhead. But when you focus deeply on fewer things for longer periods, knowledge compounds. Insights build on previous insights. Understanding deepens over time. Munger studied the same businesses for decades. Not because he was obsessed, but because deep understanding compounds into extraordinary insight. After watching Coca-Cola for 20 years, he didn't just know their financial statements. He understood their competitive position, their management quality, their response patterns, their strategic options better than almost anyone alive. This level of understanding is impossible to achieve through quick analysis or busy research. It requires patient observation over extended periods. The same principle applies to relationships. Munger's partnership with Buffett lasted 60 years because they invested time in understanding each other deeply rather than networking widely. Busy people collect contacts. Strategic people build relationships. Busy people attend networking events. Strategic people have long dinners with interesting thinkers. Busy people maintain hundreds of superficial connections. Strategic people cultivate dozens of meaningful partnerships. Which approach creates more value over time? The compound effect of stillness also applies to decision-making. When you're not constantly reactive, you develop what psychologists call cognitive reserve mental energy available for complex thinking. This allows you to make fewer, better decisions rather than many mediocre ones. Munger made perhaps 50 major investment decisions in his entire career, but each decision was informed by years of thinking, reading, and observation. Compare this to modern fund managers who make hundreds of decisions per year, each based on limited analysis and immediate pressure. Who gets better results? Stillness compounds because it allows depth instead of breadth. And in most domains that matter, depth beats breadth over time. Breaking the addiction to busyness starts with recognizing that it is an addiction. You check email compulsively, not because anything important happened, but because checking gives you a dopamine hit. You schedule back-to-back meetings not because they're all necessary, but because a full calendar makes you feel important. You say yes to every opportunity, not because they're all valuable, but because saying no feels like missing out. Like any addiction, the busy addiction requires conscious intervention. Munger's approach was systematic. First, protect thinking time like you protect money. Schedule blocks of uninterrupted time for deep work. Treat these blocks as unmovable appointments with yourself. Second, practice strategic saying no. Before accepting any request, ask, does this align with my most important objectives? If not, decline politely but firmly. Third, batch similar activities. Instead of checking email throughout the day, check it twice. Instead of taking random meetings, schedule all meetings on specific days. Fourth, embrace boredom. Don't fill every empty moment with stimulation. Let your mind wander. Some of your best ideas will come during these unstimulated periods. Fifth, measure results, not activity. Judge your day by what you accomplished, not how busy you felt. This isn't easy in a culture that rewards busyness. You'll receive pressure from colleagues who interpret your strategic stillness as laziness. But remember, the goal isn't to impress people with your schedule. The goal is to create value that compounds over time. Munger endured decades of people questioning his approach. Why don't you trade more? Why don't you diversify more? Why don't you work harder? His results answered every question. The compound effect of avoiding the busy trap is extraordinary. More time for deep thinking, better decisions, stronger relationships, higher quality work, and ultimately, better results with less effort. But it requires the courage to be different in a world addicted to sameness. The question isn't whether you can afford to slow down. The question is whether you can afford not to. Munger proved that in a world of constant motion, strategic stillness becomes the ultimate competitive advantage. The choice is yours. Remain addicted to busyness and achieve mediocre results through maximum effort. Or break the addiction and achieve extraordinary results through strategic stillness. Charlie Munger chose stillness and became one of the greatest investors in history.